Back in 2019, I made a series of videos about my mom. My mom was dying of cancer at the time. In 2001, she had a massive stroke. In 2009, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then in 2019, she had developed a tumor that was malignant and was given 6 months to live. At that point, it was, 19 years of caring for her. And knowing that the end was near, it made me really think a lot about legacy, right? Her legacy, what she meant to us as a family, what she meant, what the life that she had led. So naturally, as a filmmaker, I picked up my camera and I started filming her. And I have to say, it was so therapeutic for me during this intensely emotional time that I could kind of capture these moments. And then I didn't even know if I was ever going to edit it. I didn't even know if I was ever going to look at this footage ever again. All I knew is that I needed to do something to preserve these moments, these last moments that I had with her. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Risa Morimoto, your host, and you're watching Modern Aging, where we chat about innovative and holistic ways to elevate our health and well-being as we age. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. All you got to do is click on that little red button below with that little bell next to it to be sure to be notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. And if you could give the video a little thumbs up if you're liking what you see, so that way it tells YouTube to show it to other like-minded people. So my guest today is Kerry Glass. She is the founder of Memories Live. So she is an art therapist turned filmmaker turned entrepreneur, where she goes out and films other families with people who have life-limiting illnesses, and she produces these amazing short films for them to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about, whether it's advice for their family for the future, whether it's just talking about their family history. It's really up to them, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful gift for those that are left behind. And if this is something that you've thought about in your life, I'd love for you to watch this interview because it's really, really special. So take a look. Hi, Kerry. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Risa.
This is a topic that's really important to me. My parents recently passed in 2019 and 2020, and the kind of idea of legacy comes up, right, when we know that someone we love is kind of nearing the end. And so tell me a little bit about your background, how you actually even came up with this idea for Memories Live.
Sure. In 2010, I learned of a woman in a neighboring community who had passed away from lung cancer. She had two young kids under the age of 5, and it really struck me as a young mother back then that these kids would never know the sound of their mom's voice, never know advice from her perspective. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great to help someone to leave a legacy behind, the legacy of their story, what made them them, and who they were. Now, if we rewind my history to that point, I worked at a nursing home for 5.5 years as an art therapist. I did a few legacy projects with the individuals there, and they were really successful, and the families, and including the individuals there, loved the outcomes of those projects. I left the nursing home in the best of circumstances to move out to the suburbs to raise my kids, and when my youngest was in kindergarten, I said I would go back to working at a nursing home. There was one down the street, and they had art therapy there as well, and I said this will be a perfect transition. And then I learned about this woman, and I said, let me take my skills as an art therapist and as an empath, and I dabbled in movie making, and I said, let me take my skills as a movie maker and put them together and see what kind of comes up. I said, I'm going to give it a year, and either I'll have a year of success or I'll have a year of failure, and we all learn from our failures, and we then tend to do better because of that. So I said, let me just give this a year and see what happens, and if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to being an art therapist. So here I am, just 12 years later. I filmed over 250 people, an equal amount of men and women. The average illness is the highest amount of people that I film who have had cancer. I've definitely filmed other ailments, but it's mostly people who have cancer. And the average age is about 55.
Wow, 55, that's young. So it's not necessarily just older people. It's a
Yeah,
huge
correct.
range.
Yeah, when I first started this, I really wanted to do this only for young people. I thought, they're really going to have little kids who aren't going to have any memory of their parent. But then I'm busy making the logo, making the brochure. I said, how can I even word this for 50 or younger? I said, what if someone calls me, I just turned 51, am I not eligible? So I said, let me leave this open to anyone at any age. They have to have the life limiting illness, but let me leave it open to any age and see what organically happens. And naturally, the majority of the people that I do film are in their 50s, but I've filmed as young as 22 and I filmed as old as 103. So everyone has a story to tell. It's just a matter of if they want to do it.
Wow. So if we kind of look at this concept of legacy, I mean, what does legacy mean to you, and what kind of perspective are you bringing to kind of creating these projects for other families?
Well, when I first started, I did a lot of research on questions, Google searches on what grandparents want to share with their kids, what parents want to share with their kids, what kids want to learn from their parents, what kids want to learn from their grandparents. And I had 24 pages of questions for my first few clients. And it was very comprehensive, and I was very proud of it. I spent a lot of time on it. But the first few clients, it was just too overwhelming. I'd be sitting there filming them, and they'd go through pages and pages, and they'd made notes everywhere, and they were happy with how much I gave them to think about, but I saw it became stressful and too much. So then I made it 18 pages, and 18 pages was still too much, and then it's now one page. And it doesn't mean I've cut anything out. I have everything in my brain, and all the topics are still there. They're just very comprehensive. They're very, like, instead, I'll say grandparents, and then, the first 24 pager had like 10 or 15 topics under grandparents. So now I just have one or two, and then I'll dig a little deeper on my own without there being so many pages or details there. So, it's really, I give people so many choices of what they want to talk about. Some people want to talk directly to their kids, don't want to talk about their history, don't want to talk about their family, what made them, want to talk and share advice, share themselves with their kids and their hopes and their dreams. That's one way to take it. Some people want to share their whole family history, their own personal history, what has made them, and with tiny little intricacies like cooking, music, hobbies, all those kind of things. What has made them, soup to nuts, in addition to their history. And some people want to do it all, do both, their history, what's made them, and then talk to their kids. I tell people there's no wrong way to do this, no right way to do this. You know your story best, you know your history best, and it just depends how you're going to share it in this moment when we're filming. So that's kind of how I present the legacy building. I give them any different avenue that they want to take it in.
That's amazing. That's really amazing, right? And I think it's probably pretty cathartic for them as well as for the family. Um, End of life is such a difficult topic for so many people. So is it the sort of thing, like, how do you even approach, or do people, I assume maybe people just come to you at this point. But I would imagine, I don't know how close they are to death when they approach you, or is it something they've been thinking about? I mean, is there a point? I mean, I'm sure there's an ideal point where, in terms of filming and that sort of thing, it's better for you and for them as well, right? I mean, towards the very end, I mean, there's not much happening, and it's really for them to be around their loved ones. So I feel like the timing might be a little bit tricky as well in terms of having those open discussions about end of life and that sort of thing. So how do you approach that?
Everyone approaches it differently. I've had people film a year before they pass away, 2 years before they passed away. I filmed someone a day before they passed away. So anything in between there, it's just when they are ready, when they've come to terms with their mortality, when they've come to terms with their diagnosis, and those are the big two key factors. There's many people who don't want to do this, and that's not part of their journey. But for people who it is part of their journey, they will seek it out. I've had so many people find me with Google searches. Another way of referrals is social workers, doctors, nurses. They will share it with individuals. I have no control on the first step. The first step is either someone doing a Google search or learning about it from the social worker. I can present to the social worker, but I can't be in the hospital going around and promoting Memories Live. So I really depend on the hundreds of social workers over the years that I've presented to. And then it's that person, if the social worker makes the connection because they feel it's the right fit and that is the person that wants to do this, and then it takes that person to then reach out to me, or sometimes I'll get their information. But, as you said, it's obviously a much different film when someone films it closer to the end, especially if they're on hospice. So many people say, wish I knew about you sooner. It's tough, it's hard for me to kind of get the word out there, and the social workers sometimes wait a little too long. But the individuals who I've filmed 6 months out, a year out, 2 years out, it's a really different movie. But either way, I do have the delicate discussion with people. Do you want to be remembered like this? I speak to the family. Do you want the family member? I ask the family members if they want to remember their loved ones very close to the end like this. Most people still want it. They want to hear their voice. They want to be able to have their voice and their image and to be able to capture it all.
So in terms of clearly being an art therapist and being an empath, this is kind of feels like it's part of your destiny to kind of be able to provide such a gift for people. How would you say having your background, being an art therapist, being an empath, has allowed you to actually create better films for these families, right? As opposed to just being a straight up filmmaker, let's say, for example.
Yeah, it's a real interesting combination because over the years I've written grants, had grants written, and a lot of the ones that want to be continued have to show growth and what your change is going to be, and are you going to open yourself in more cities and be able to do this nationwide. And the first 9 years I didn't. It was just me filming in New York, filming in New Jersey, and Connecticut within an hour and a half time frame. I film in Philadelphia as well a little bit. An hour and a half drive was the most I could do in a day, sometimes a little longer. And in order to renew those grants, I couldn't say, I can open in Boston, but where am I going to find a movie maker, someone to ask the questions, someone to do all the editing, the empathy while sitting there with someone who's dying. Those are a lot of skill sets to have, and it's unique that I do have them all, and somehow it works. I love each and every piece of what I do. I love making the presentations to the social workers and the teams of medical teams in the hospitals and hospices. I love the communication that I make with people when I'm talking with them and explaining the process. I love the filming very much and going to meet new people and asking them questions. And I can't tell you 100% of the time people say they were dreading me coming, and they say, I feel so bad telling you this. And I said, I've heard it all before. Let's talk in an hour when we're done and you'll let me know how it is. And I love the editing because I get to relearn their story and then look at the photographs of who they were and just create this whole project for not only for them, but for their families. And, the first few years, it took me a while to realize that this is really not only for the families, it's also for the person themselves. As you said before, it must be so cathartic for them. It is 1,000 times cathartic for them. They're living with so much guilt and that they're going to be leaving their families. And the fact of them creating something, leaving a piece of themselves behind for their families. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what's going to happen with the end product, if the family's ever going to watch it, but I know I did something special for someone in this moment. So that all encapsulates, the skill sets that I have and the way that I can deliver it and create this product for people.
That's so amazing. I happened to videotape my parents, when they were kind of nearing the end, because I knew they were both ill. And, because I had the skill set and I had the cameras and stuff. And I really do wish that others could, be able to pick up a camera. I think you said that some people you're having remote kind of shoots and stuff like that, right? That people are being
Yes.
able to shoot themselves.
Yeah, a few years ago, a woman reached out to me from Austin, Texas, and she said, I just met someone when I was getting treatment who you'd filmed. I said, how did you meet someone? I film only in, the East Coast, small little pocket. Said, I knew this woman who came out to MD Anderson in Texas to be treated. This woman who I'd filmed a month earlier wanted to do anything she could to save her own life, and she went to MD Anderson to get the best treatment for her illness, had met this other woman, and I'd had all people from all over the country at that point, within the last bunch of years, reaching out to me. And I said, sorry, I only film in this area. And I said, once this woman called me, I said, here we are, 20, when was it? 20, whatever it was, 16, 17. Said, I should be able to figure out a way to do this. I said, just give me a week. Let me figure it out. And went to, I use all Apple products. This is not an advertisement. And I went to the Apple store and I spoke to my guys and I said, how can I do this? What can I do this? And how can I make it easy for the people that I'm filming? So we came up a way with people filming themselves on either their phone, their laptop, desktop, and the quality of the cameras these days, especially on the newer phones, are just as good as the really nice camera that I have. And I have a tip sheet that I email out to them. I have them email or text me a practice clip before we start filming. So I make sure that they've framed it properly, that I make sure that the lighting looks good, and make sure that they sound good, make sure that the background looks okay, and I make sure it looks as perfect as if I was there filming it. So most people do it on their own because everyone's so good with the phones now and any devices, and some people have a loved one help them, and then I'm on a landline with them or on a second phone on speaker. So that allows me to be part of the process, and everyone wants me to be, most of the people that I filmed this way want me to be part of the process. I have a notebook that I sit and I take notes as I'm talking to them. We don't film for more than 10 minutes because the footage, the files become too big to send to me. So we film for about 10 minutes at a time, then we hit stop and I record each segment, how long it is. I'm paying attention to the clock. I'm taking notes to make sure when they send it back to me that I'm getting each clip that they send. And I take notes, all right, she hit stop and start once, twice, all right, I should be getting 12 clips. And that's it. A couple of times I've had people hit the photo button instead of the video record button. So I've gotten, still, and I said, oh, you missed the first two clips, you took photographs. No, Kerry, look back. And, things happen with technology and not everyone is amazing with technology or perfect, but we have little hiccups along the way. But for the most part, it works so well. I send out a little video of myself so people can see me, not only hear me, and they see what I look like. I like to make it as personal as possible instead of just being a voice in the background. I send out a little introductory welcome video and I show them how to frame themselves and how far or close the camera should be. And, I like them to be able to see me because I know I'm going to be seeing them when I edit. So I want them to be able to see me too. And again, I'm trying to make it as personal as possible. So that's the way I think that's been even before COVID. So I think the last 4 years I've been doing that, and I've filmed people all over the country, Colorado, Florida, Texas, Wyoming, Oregon. Someone heard about me in Australia. We weren't able to coordinate the filming. Her friends filmed her, sent me all the footage, sent me all the photographs. I filmed some, so that worked. I'm just blown away. It's worked really, really well. And even during COVID, if people didn't want me to come to their homes and they were local, we would film virtually as well. And it's a great thing. And I'm always looking for new and better ways to do it. But for right now, that's how that works best.
I guess because I've talked a lot about end of life issues, on this channel and such, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough, and it's something that's inevitable for all of us. Nobody gets to escape it, and I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it, the more that maybe we can ask those questions that we're scared to ask, or, just have those conversations that, we're really reluctant to have. And so I'm hoping that, and I'm thinking that you probably open this door up for many, many families, that through making this movie or whatever it is, having a project allows them to open up in a way that they might not be able to, otherwise. There's something special about that. Have families kind of expressed, how these movies have helped them grieve, or have helped them kind of get through the illness of their loved one, or what have other clients or families how have they expressed what these movies have meant to them?
That was the hardest part for me for many years, and I would take it personally that nobody reached out to me, even though I do some sort of follow through. How was the movie? Did you find it helpful? Was it any part of your grieving process? Did it give you any comfort when you watched it? And I would get no response. Maybe I'd get one out of like 20 or 30. And I took it personally, like, oh, they didn't like it, And I slowly started to learn that sometimes it takes a year or 2 or 3 or 4 for the families to watch it. Some families watch it every year on their loved one's birthday as a celebration, as a remembrance. And some don't watch it at all, or haven't watched it yet because the loss was too tragic, and they can't yet. Again, I don't have a lot of the follow up, and it's tough. I come at such a delicate part of not only the ill person's life, but the family that are left behind, and everybody grieves differently and handles the watching of the movie differently. So again, I do have very, very little feedback, and at first I took it so personally and got so upset, and I've learned to kind of let it be like, this is their process. I have nothing to do with this. But I have had one beautiful story that a mom shared with me. I filmed her husband. I think her kids were she had twins who were 11, and a younger child who was like 8. And when the twins were going to college, one of them couldn't decide when she was going. So this was years after I filmed it. And they said, what would Dad say? Like, what advice would we give me? I didn't know which school to go to, this one or this one, and what would Dad say? And the mom said, oh, wait, we have this movie. Let's watch. I think he said something about college. We haven't watched it in a while. And he did have advice for college. And they watched that chapter, and I'm giving myself the chills. And
I know, me too.
Because I haven't thought about this in such a long time. And the advice that he gave helped her make her decision onto which college to go to. So that just gave me, I was so happy that the movie did provide that, and that they were able to watch it back again and in a different mindset. Like, we need something from Dad. Wow, here it is. So I hope there's other stories like that. I don't know. Like, a lot of the families dissociate from me. At the end, once I get the movie out to them, because I'm part of the loss technically. So yeah, it's a tough part.
There's something about seeing a photo of a loved one who's died, but then seeing video is a whole other level, right? Because that person who's no longer there comes alive. And I do think that that's probably very sensitive. And, I can see that people wouldn't want to watch it perhaps so soon after they've passed and need to wait a while. But that's the beautiful thing, right? It's forever. So they're preserved, and what a gift that is. But yeah, so if people are interested in finding out more about Memories Live, where do they go? How do they find you?
My website, memorieslive.org. My phone number is there. My email address is there. And that's the best way to find me.
Awesome. Kerry, thank you so much. This has been great.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time and the great questions.